chapter 3 of Colossians. It reads, if then you were raised with Mashiach, meaning in the sense of um, resurrection, um, as in the representation that is given through the immersion, right? The baptism. If then you were raised with Mashiach, seek the matters which are above, where Messiah, where Mashiach is, seated at the right hand of Yahweh. As you can see, this has a connection to Psalm 110, which is a psalm that I mention a lot because it is very important. It is key when it comes to understanding the coming of the last second manifestation of Yahweh on this earth. So Psalm 110, Yahweh said to my sovereign, to my Adon, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies a footstool for your feet. So here it says, Neum Yahweh le Adoni. So declared Yahweh to my sovereign. So Yahushua used this to tell the Pharisees that Messiah is not the son of David, but the root of David. So the son of David, the branch of David, is the second manifestation. The root had to come first, and that's why they didn't recognize Mashiach. He was hidden, just like the root is hidden below the soil. So was Mashiach hidden from their understanding. So Yahushua told them he's the root, because if he was the son of David, why would David call him master or sovereign? Adonai, Adoni in this case, my sovereign. So we see in this psalm part of the old covenant, which the Pharisees obviously had and knew by heart, yet reject, in the sense of they reject this knowledge that is being given in this verse, in the sense that they see the fact that there is somebody else other than Yahweh, somebody at his right hand. They see that as a blasphemy, as heresy. For it is written, Yahweh Echad, Yahweh is one. So they, for some reason, find issue with that. And also with Proverbs 34, verse 4, chapter 30, where Yahweh asks, what is his name and the name of his son, if you know it. So there they claim that the name of the son is Israel, taking part of what is written in the Torah, but not understanding that that son that is being talked about in Proverbs 30, verse 4, is this sovereign mentioned here by David himself. So how is David, the king of Israel, going to say that there is a sovereign other than Yahweh? That sovereign is Yahushua HaMashiach, the root of David, whom David knew and recognized as sovereign, sitting at the right hand of Yahweh. So as we know, the Messiah sitting at the right hand happened after he resurrected, and is mentioned in the New Covenant several times. So I repeat the verse, Yahweh said to my sovereign, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies a footstool for your feet. As we know, the firmament is the throne of Yahweh, and the earth is his footstool. It is written in several parts of scripture. So the fact that he's saying, until I make your enemies a footstool for your feet, is saying that his enemies, Satan and his angels, the third of the angels, will fall to the earth, for they are in the heavens, but they will fall to the earth, which is the footstool. And since Mashiach is sitting at the right hand of Yahweh's throne, then the earth would be his footstool as well. Also, the fact that it says until, it means you will sit there until I go and finish what I started, pretty much. So a lot of people are expecting Mashiach Yahushua himself to appear, but it is not Mashiach, but Yahweh himself. Once again, Yahweh appeared once through Yahushua, then he sat at the right hand of the power, and now he must manifest again in the end times, but this time to fight against his enemies and bring him down to the earth, as we see in Revelation 12. So first and last as son and father, just like the father is saying to the son, sit at my right hand until I go to the earth and bring your enemies down. So this is the verse being mentioned in Colossians, where it says, if then you were raised with Mashiach, seek the matters which are above, where Messiah is, seated at the right hand of Yahweh. So if he is now in the present, seated at the right hand of Yahweh, then that means that the second part of the verse must fulfill anytime soon. And obviously, sooner than most people think, since we are almost 2,000 years after Mashiach came, which is pretty much the time mentioned in Hosea that would be left after his first coming. Also, remember that a messenger represents he who sent him in every way, in every sense. So Mashiach said that he would send his messenger in Revelation 22 and other parts, but mainly there as a witness. So the witness, like Moshe, is that messenger of Mashiach who represents him. So therefore, even though it is the Father once again manifesting, is pretty much the second coming, for it is the presence of Yahweh once again coming to the earth through a person of flesh. Just like when Mashiach came, he said, if you have seen me, you have seen the Father. In the same sense, the second, the last would say or could say, for he is the messenger. Also, as it is saying here, seek the matters which are above. This is so important. Most people, sadly, they come to Messiah, they claim to believe in the Messiah, yet they don't seek the matters which are above. They seek the matters which are below, which are on this earth. They only think about their life on this earth, about how they can get success, some perhaps fame, obviously money, and many other things of this world, material things that have no actual importance in the spiritual realm. In fact, they can be obstacles, things weighing down the people so that they cannot reach that which is above. So we must seek the matters which are above: knowledge, understanding, wisdom, love, faith. So I repeat, eat Messiah, seek the matters which are above, where Messiah is, seated at the right hand of Yahweh. So mind the matters above, not those on the earth. So we must keep our mind in that which is above in the heavens. I repeat, everything that comes from the Father. And obviously we can say everything that is on this earth was made by the will of the Father with a purpose, as an image and symbol of something spiritual. Therefore, anything that we see on this earth, we should see with spiritual eyes, so that whatever objects or matter we are looking at actually works as a symbol of that which the Almighty is trying to tell us spiritually. So my point is that even through the matters of this earth, we are able to see the matters above if we have spiritual eyes, if we keep our mind in the spiritual. For you have died and your life has been hidden with Messiah in Elohim. For you have died and your life has been hidden with Messiah in Elohim. So that's why we are sitting also at the right hand in that sense, right? We are sitting in heavenly places, that is, as it is written. For you have died, since we were immersed in Mashiach, we died through him. That's why the enemy cannot accuse us, because we already died through Mashiach. And since we already died, we paid for the sin because the wages of sin is death. So if we died, sin is done, the enemy cannot accuse us. But then if we die to the flesh, why would we be interested in those things of the flesh? That wouldn't make any sense. That would be a contradiction. And that's why faith without works doesn't work. So for you have died and your life has been hidden with Messiah in Elohim. So our true life is hidden at the moment with the Messiah. That's why also it is written that to us, for us to live is Mashiach and to die is to win, to gain pretty much that life, that eternal life. When the Messiah, who is our life, is manifested, then you also shall be manifested with him in honor or esteem. This verse can be seen in a couple ways, depending on what manifestation it is referring to. The one through the witness like Moshe, or the one after he has manifested, died, and resurrected, which would obviously be in all esteem and honor. Since the life has been hidden with the Messiah, then when the Messiah manifests, then you also shall be manifested with him in esteem. So in a way, if we're talking about the coming of the last, who is also anointed by Yahweh through Mashiach, of course, to comes to reveal the true life, he will manifest, and then the chosen few will be there being manifested with him in honor, receiving pretty much the same at the same time. For the difference between the resurrection of the last and the transformation of the few is a matter of a few days. But obviously, once the first and last become one, then he will manifest to gather all. And in that moment, everybody will have a body like him and therefore will live in honor. Therefore, put to death your members which are on the earth. Put to death your members which are on the earth. Anything that we may do that is wrong, we need to cut it. We need to make it, basically kill it, so that it remains dead. Therefore, put to death your members which are on the earth: whoring, uncleanness, passion, evil desire, and greed of gain, which is idolatry. There are several things. Pretty much, in a way, all sin is idolatry, because that is serving something else than Yahweh. And that something else will be that idol. So in general, we could say everything is idolatry, every sin in a way. But there are certain things in which the scripture makes reference, like in this case, the greed of gain, which is idolatry. It makes it clear because a lot of people believe that the greed of gain is something natural, something good, because it means you're a good worker, you are ambitious, you are whatever. The enemy will say to make greed of gain look like a good thing. So we need to understand that the greed is idolatry, because we are thinking that through certain matter we are becoming more powerful. For instance, like when the serpent told Eve to eat of the tree, and she did, thinking that she would be more powerful. She had greed of gaining power, of gaining, in this case, knowledge. So the greed of gain, which is idolatry, like those who worship God. And remember that God, according to Isaiah 65:11, is fortune. So those who worship fortune are worshiping God. Those who worship God are worshiping Satan, because Satan is also called in scriptures fortune. So that's why the greed of gain comes from that spirit, the spirit of fortune, and that is Lucifer. who is also called God according to Isaiah 65. And that's why it is idolatry, because he is not the true mighty one, yet people think that money is powerful because of the illusion that it creates in this reality. And therefore, as they call it, the almighty dollar, right? Just like in the dollar, they have the all-seeing eye of Lucifer, and it says that they trust in God. Because of these, the wrath of Elohim is coming upon the sons of disobedience, upon the sons of disobedience, the sons of Belial. Belial, well, let me see what it says here. Ephesians 2:2 and 5:6. I would like to see this in Hebrew. Sadly, we don't have it, but normally when disobedience appears, and even more with the sons, in Hebrew, they would write Bnei Belial, or the sons of Belial. Belial is pretty much another name for Samael, the first Satan, that which represents disobedience, the lack of Torah, emptiness, amongst other things. So they who have become the sons of Samael, pretty much. Because of these, the wrath of Yahweh is coming upon the sons of disobedience, the sons of Samael, who do not understand at all Torah. They reject it, they hate it, etc. Now, I repeat the things that are mentioned here: whoring, uncleanness, passion, evil desire, and greed of gain. Mentions 5 things, which are obviously the fingers in one hand, just like the hand represents action, acts. So these are the deeds that we shouldn't do. And it only mentions 5, not 10, because it will be referring to the left hand, as in works of evil, right? Whoring, which is interesting because obviously, well, that would be also fornication, adultery, but in the sense of just whoring, it refers to giving sex for money, pleasure, for anything else, material, of this earth, whatever, selling yourself. But we know the great whore of Babylon refers to something that is spiritual, just like all pastors who are giving their supposed teachings to a bunch of people who are following them and giving them money because of the prosperity doctrine, but the teaching that they are given are doctrines of demons. So that's also a type of whoring. Uncleanness, which pretty much any sin will lead to uncleanness, and the more you do it, the dirtier you will be. Passion, the passion of the flesh, of course. Evil desire. So we actually see how they are very connected, just like the 5 fingers in a hand, because they all are connected with each other. One leads to the other one. The desire to do something that is evil, the passion to do what is wrong, uncleanness because of doing wrong, because of desire for something else, evil desire, and greed of gain, which is idolatry. Because of these, the wrath of Yahweh is coming upon the sons of disobedience. Interesting that I repeat mentions 5, like the fingers in a hand, just like the hand that wrote the commandments with his finger, Elohim, and then the hand that comes at the end to reprimand, right? To punish the wicked, the hand of Yahweh. Moshe, who represents the hand, just like Mashiach, the arm. Yahushua is the arm of Yahweh, the witness like Moshe, the hand. First and last, fulfill, obviously, we could say the whole Yud, the letter Yud. So because of these, the wrath of Yahweh is coming upon the sons of disobedience. And we see that nowadays this is everywhere, right? In every way that these words can be understood, we see it everywhere and promoted on TV and everywhere. So much so that, like I said, many people, because of their flesh of or friends or whatever, they see greed of gain as something positive, ambition. They see evil desire as normal because they think they came from monkeys, right? So they are led by their fleshly passions. So they are unclean for sure, acting as whores spiritually, and some also physically. So because of this, the wrath of Yahweh is coming upon the sons of disobedience, in which you also once walked when you lived in them. In which you also once walked when you lived in them. So this is also clear and shows that we are dead to this actions because of Mashiach. But some of us, well, all of us did some of what appears here. All of us knew what passion was: evil desire, greed of gain, uncleanness, whoring. But we died to it so that it doesn't control us anymore. So in which you also walked when you lived in them. And this is important to remember because there are people who, once they come out of evil, of sin, then they start condemning those who are still in it, not remembering that they were in it as well. So they would have been condemned if they have met somebody like them, right? So we need to put ourselves in other people's shoes and understand that we were there, and maybe we didn't act the same way, maybe we didn't say the same things, etc. But we were in the apostasy, we were in sin, whatever sin that may be, still sin, disobedience. So because of this, the wrath of Yahweh is coming upon the sons of disobedience. And I say all of that and repeat it because the world is full with this. So therefore, that means that the wrath is coming. And obviously, this has been written for 2,000 years, but we can compare how it is now and how it was before, and confirms what the prophecy said regarding this generation being the worst of all. In which you also once walked when you lived in them. But now also put up all these: displeasure, wrath, evil, blasphemy, filthy talk from your mouth. So once again, 5, making reference to actions that we shouldn't do. But now also put off all these: displeasure. That's important, interesting also to find it here. We must be content with that which we have. It is the only way to be ready for more, whatever more may be, in the sense of what Yahweh has prepared for us. So we must put up displeasure, wrath, that is another type of idolatry, evil, blasphemy, filthy talk from your mouth. Also look how blasphemy, well, there are many ways in which people can blaspheme, but one of the most common is with words. But look how it is separated: blasphemy and filthy talk from your mouth. We must keep our mouths clean from filthy talk, for we will be judged for every word that comes out of our mouth. So 5 here, 5 in the other one, as in the 10 fingers, all the actions that we shouldn't do, and also in contrast, in a way, to the 10 commandments. But now also put off all these: displeasure. So also, how interesting that in one hand, as in I had said the left, we have passion, evil desire. Here we have displeasure. And my point is, there are some who, through their evil desire, they are looking for pleasure. So they go to one extreme or the other, like the right or the hand, the right hand or the left hand, in the sense of some look for pleasure of the flesh, others are in displeasure, and they are both sin. We need a balance, not to follow the pleasure of the flesh, as in the passion here, but not to be in displeasure from what the Father has provided, from the life that we've been building, because we're obviously also responsible for what we've done and therefore for the way we are living. So this kind of confirms what I was saying regarding the two hands. In this case, this will be the left because it's displeasure, and this is looking for pleasure, right? Wrath, evil, which is kind of like this evil desire, blasphemy, and filthy talk from your mouth. Also, in fact, look how the first was displeasure in here, but the first and the other one was whoring, which is basically selling pleasure. Whoring, displeasure, uncleanness, wrath, passion, evil, evil desire, blasphemy, greed of gain, filthy talk. We know that, and I mentioned this because of the relation between filthy talk and greed of gain in the positive spiritual sense. Through our spiritual clean talk, like invoking the true name of the Messiah, Yahushua, we receive the riches of Yahweh, the true gain. Because remember that Shua also means riches. And we know that wisdom and knowledge are far greater than gold and silver. So we can also through this see the opposite in the sense of the positive. Then it says, do not lie to each other. Do not lie to each other, since you have put off the old man with his practices. Very important. Like I always mention, one of the things why I don't like to to work in sales or stuff like that is because people get used to lying a lot in order to sell. And if you are honest, then people won't buy because they are also kind of expecting to be lied to, right? People go somewhere and they want to, and sometimes like when you go to buy something, you know, it cannot be that perfect. It cannot be as good as they say, you know, people go and put on like, they go to get clothes and they put something on and it always looks great, right? To the person helping you, it always looks great and it's just for you. But then you buy it and you look at yourself in the mirror at home and it's something else. So it's always lying and lying and lying. And people lie even just for sport, sometimes even without having to, in the sense that nobody has to, but the flesh makes it so that people think they have to, right? So sadly, people nowadays lie about almost everything. They lie in their social media, right? They want to give an appearance that their life is greater than everybody else's, or that they're happy when they're not, or whatever. It's all a lie because they want to be actors, for instance, and that's what actors do. They lie for a living. So people wanted to be famous, and now social media has made it possible, TikTok and all of that. So sadly, we see people lying for a living. Do not lie to each other, since you have put off the old man, which with his practices. Obviously, in this case, it's talking to us who have put off the old man. So it is common, sadly, normal in reality, in this reality, for people to lie to each other. But since we have put off the old man, then we should not lie because we have died to that way of living. Since you have put off the old man with his practices and have put on the new one, who is renewed in knowledge according to the likeness of him who created him. In the likeness, remember that Yahweh said, let's make Adam in our image and our likeness. Image and likeness. So, as I have mentioned, the image in one of the interpretations is referring to the body, which is seen, and the likeness referring to the ruach. For Mashiach, for Yahweh is spirit. So the ruach that gives life to us. As we know, Mashiach came to give us the ruach hakodesh, the spirit to receive eternal life. So that is the true likeness. So in a way, we could say we didn't have the likeness, only the image. But through Mashiach, we received the likeness. And therefore, during this end of the millennium, which is the sixth, therefore the sixth day of creation, which is the day when Yahweh created Adam, and that is why through Mashiach 2,000 years ago, the Ruach would come in order for us now to also receive the likeness, image and likeness. Also, remember that image in a higher sense represents the soul, likeness, the spirit. So, well, in fact, like I always mentioned, in the physical level, image refers to the body, the soul to the likeness. In a spiritual level, the image is the soul, the likeness is the spirit. So also Yahweh is saying he is the first and the last. That means that the first would come as the image. That's why he said, if you have seen the Father, you have seen me, because he is the image of the Father. He's exactly the same, which is what image means. That's why he never sinned. But then the other one comes in the likeness. So he is like, but not exactly. And that's why he comes as the prodigal son. And that's why John, John, the Revelator, the one in the book of Revelation, says that he saw one who was like the Son of Man. That is the likeness. So first and last, image and likeness. But in this case, what I was referring to is how through Yahushua, we can receive the likeness that Yahweh intended for Adam, for humanity in Genesis, for he was made in the sixth day, and we are ending the sixth day, because one day are like 1,000 years, right? So, and have put on the new one. So we died to what we were, and now we got dressed up with a new one who is renewed in knowledge. So we receive a complete new understanding, knowledge regarding reality, regarding life itself, regarding the reason why we exist, things which we didn't know or didn't even care before, or some didn't care, some cared too much perhaps, and were in depression or all of that. But that's what we have put off. Now we were renewed in knowledge. How important to be renewed in knowledge. So if you know somebody that claims to believe in the Messiah, but is the same person, he has not been renewed in knowledge, that means the Messiah he's talking about is not the real one. Because the person, by coming to the true Messiah, will change. He will be somebody else, and have put on the new one who is renewed in knowledge according to the likeness of him who created him. Where there is not Greek and Yahudi, circumcised and uncircumcised, foreigner, Scythian, slave, free, but Messiah is all and in all. Now, in this case, I would say Yehudi, because that's a term. I use it like this when it comes to the false ones, because remember that the true one is with a letter A here. And as we know, Messiah was a Yahudi. He came from the tribe of Yehudah. So if Messiah is in all and in all, then all are Yahudim once they come to Mashiach, but no longer Greek or Yehudi. It's not about Christian or Jew, right? It's about Messiah, the true Messiah. There is not Greek and Yahudi. This is important. And to me, it is amazing to see and hear so many questions many times in the radio show, for instance. Um, and a lot of people having issues with the letter, with the law, with the commandments of men, as in circumcision, having read this verse, having heard it, and they still get stuck between saying they are Christians, these others are Jews. So they say they follow some things and they should follow other things. They say that the Jews are the people of God, as they say, and the Gentiles were adopted and they are the church. But where does it say that here? How can you say that after reading this? There is not Greek and Yehudi. There is no Christian and Jew. There is no two, for we are all one. That is the point. There is no division. He made union, unity. So where there is not Greek and Yehudi, circumcised and uncircumcised. So if a person is not circumcised, why would he think that somebody who is circumcised is greater or is closer to the spiritual, or it is a Jew and therefore he is something else, when we are all one? I repeat, as it is written here, slave and free, slave and free. Even if a person was a slave and remained a slave physically, he was free in the mind. While many who are free are slaves to the flesh, to their desires. So Messiah is all and in all. Therefore, as chosen ones of Yahweh, set apart and beloved, put on compassion, kindness, humbleness of mind, meekness, patience, bearing with one another and forgiving each other if anyone has a complaint against another. Indeed, as Messiah forgave you, so also should you. Once again, he mentioned 5 things. The rest is connected to the 5th or even to 5 of them. But once again, like pretty much saying that which rectifies the wickedness mentioned earlier. The evil deeds mentioned in previous verses being rectified by putting those actions to death and then acting this way. Therefore, as chosen ones of Yahweh, set apart and beloved, put on compassion, kindness, humbleness of mind, very important, because many people act humble, but they are not humble in their mind. Meekness, patience, how important patience is. And the more you understand what patience is, I believe, the more you realize how spiritual it is, how much of the spirit you need for patience to actually exist within you. True patience. Bearing with one another and forgiving each other if anyone has a complaint against another. Right? There will be complaints. It doesn't mean that because you are in a congregation of believers in Messiah, everything will be easy, or everybody will be able to communicate perfectly. No, everybody still is learning, growing. And also, not everybody that comes through the congregation, and I say come through in the sense that they may come in, but then eventually come out. Therefore, they weren't part of it. So we shouldn't expect to always everybody to be perfect, because I repeat, we are all working to be perfect. So that's why we should forgive each other, understanding that. But also we should understand that there may be complaints. But those complaints should be fixed. They shouldn't bring more division and problems, right? as it also sadly happens in some cases when there is no patience, no kindness, no compassion, no humbleness of mind, no meekness. Look how all these things that he said are key when it comes to keeping the shalom, the peace. Because those who are proud, their complaint will be above anything, any justification. Those who are not meek, they will want to fight. Those who are not kind won't accept no repentance from no one, no sorry, and therefore obviously won't have compassion. There are people who have no patience, so they complain about everything. So we must remember and also think about the others in the sense of have compassion, patience, kindness, all of that, in order for others not to have complaints about us. Because most people think about what are my complaints? Why can I complain about? But they don't think about what could they complain about me? What would they complain about me? So that's what we should think about and stay away from doing anything that people may complain about for everybody's own good. So as Messiah forgave you, so also should you. Right? So when people don't forgive others, they are pretty much taking themselves out of the forgiveness that Mashiach offers. Because how can you expect to be forgiven if you don't forgive? And how can you be forgiven for greater things than the one you are not forgiven for, which is pretty much always the case, most of the time. But above all these, put on love. But above all these, put on love, which is a bond of the perfection. Beautiful. Verse 14, the numerical value of David, which is beloved, the meaning of the name. Now look, compassion, kindness, humbleness of mind, meekness, patience. 5. Now love comes as the 6th, as in the 6 days of creation. Man was created on the 6th. For what reason? To love Yahweh with all his heart, all his mind, all his strength, and to love one another as himself. So, but above all these, put on love, which is a bond of the perfection. It is only through love that we will be able to be perfect, to accomplish perfection. Remember that to be filled with love is the way to get rid of all fear. Not talking about the fear of Yahweh, of course, that goes along with love. For Yahweh is love, and he who knows Yahweh is filled with love, and therefore fears Yahweh, for he knows Yahweh. So, perfect love gets rid of every fear. And perfect love in the sense that to be filled with love, because perfection is to be completed. So love is what will complete us. Sadly, people are looking for love outside of themselves, thinking that if they have a partner, then they will be happy. Everything will be perfect. Yet that partner is also looking for love outside, and therefore neither have love inside. So what they do is destroy each other. We must put on love in order to love others. Most people are looking for somebody to love them and don't know how to love others. They may know how to love themselves, but not how to love the neighbor, which is a bond of the perfection. As we know, Yahweh is love, and Yahweh is one. And he makes a covenant to make us perfect. The only way to become perfect is to become one with he who is perfect. To be filled with that which we lack. Like I said, to be completed is to be perfected. So, and let the shalom of Yahweh rule in your hearts. Let the peace of Elohim rule in your hearts, to which indeed you were called in one body, and be filled with thanks. Let the shalom of Yahweh rule in your hearts. Very important. We have to let the shalom of Yahweh rule. If we don't let the shalom rule, then fear will rule, preoccupation, anxiety, to which indeed you were called in one body, and be filled with thanks. Let the word of Messiah, which is the name Yahushua HaMashiach, let the word of Mashiach dwell in you richly. What is the word of Mashiach? Well, the word of Yahweh is the name of the Messiah. Obviously, we can say that the word of Messiah is everything that he said, but the fact that he says word and not words, singular, connects mainly with his name, which is Yahushua. Yahweh saves, also Yahweh enriches. So how interesting that it says, let the word of Messiah dwell in you richly. Shua. Teaching and admonishing one another in all wisdom, not in emotion, not in feelings, wisdom. Singing with pleasure in your hearts to the sovereign in psalms and songs of praise and spiritual songs. Like I have mentioned, well, regarding singing is key, it's important, but sadly, a lot of people focus more on singing than on the wisdom. And you see how he says wisdom first, then singing. And why would we sing unless we know who we're singing to? So we need the wisdom and the knowledge and understanding in order to know who to sing and what to sing, because then we may use songs to actually get farther from the Father. Singing with pleasure in your hearts to the sovereign in psalms and songs of praise and spiritual songs. I've heard several songs in Christianity that shouldn't be sung. They shouldn't say some of the things that sometimes they say. And I'm not even talking about the false names, false titles. I once heard a song in which they were saying that the spirit was like a virus. So they were calling the spirit a virus. Then another song when they were saying, they were asking for fire to come down on their church. And one could say that, oh, the spiritual fire, understanding, knowledge. But the words that they were using were pretty much asking for literal fire to come down and destroy. So it was so weird. and that's just to name a couple, but there's much more, and even some that you may not think so, but the spirit that inspired those songs and the people that sing those songs are not of the Father. So those songs will lead people away from the Father. So we need to be careful. But it is important indeed, and it helps. And it is even said that a song and the words in a song will go deeper into a person's mind and spirit than just regular words or somebody just doing a speech. The words won't go into the person as it would with a song. So the enemy uses music for sure, as we see in Ezekiel 28. And whatever you do in word or deed, this is very important as always. And whatever you do, and also numerical value 17, tov, which is good. And whatever you do in word or deed, do all in the name of the sovereign Yahushua. Do all in the name of Ha'adon Yahushua, giving thanks to Yahweh the Father through him. And I would be pretty much sure that it would say Yahweh because he's mentioning the Father, where Elohim is just a title and it would refer to others who are not fathers. So whatever you do in word or deed, right? The two levels that come after thought. Obviously, we must keep our thought clean at all times, and that is the only way that our word and our deed will also be clean. But it is referring here to word and deed because it is referring to that which others hear and see or are affected by. Whatever you do in word or deed, do all in the name of the Adon, Yahushua, giving thanks to Yahweh the Father through him. That's why we thank the Father, we pray to the Father, and we do that through Mashiach so that the prayer is heard. For we put on Mashiach. We are praying through him. Wives, subject yourselves to your own husbands, as is proper in the sovereign. This is a verse with which a lot of people have issues, sadly, because they don't understand order. They have been programmed by today's society, the media and all of that. So to say this even is to some people hateful. Wives, subject yourselves to your own husbands, as is proper in the sovereign. Just like the husband will subject himself to the sovereign Mashiach, just like Mashiach subjected himself to Yahweh. And it is all about what is proper for everything to work as it is supposed to. Yahweh made us so he knows how we work properly. Wives, subject yourselves to your own husbands as is proper in the sovereign. Husbands, love your wives and do not be bitter toward them. So also the fact that he mentioned these couple things here, well, is referring pretty much to what each person in a family needs to do or the way they should act. And also, obviously, it's kind of referring to that which is sometimes harder for that specific person. In the sense of the wives, the enemy will try to make the wife not be subject. The enemy through the flesh will tell the wife to do whatever she wants and that is the way and that she is free and empowered and all of that, not understanding that that is becoming a slave of the enemy. So that is the opposite of freedom. But if you subject yourselves to your own husbands, then you will receive the true freedom as is proper in the sovereign, just like we subject ourselves to Mashiach. And what did Mashiach tell us? That he who knows the truth will be free. So we must be subjects of Mashiach, of justice, of righteousness. People kind of see freedom as something that will allow them to do whatever they want, including evil, and not understanding that doing evil is being a slave. So it is the opposite of freedom. Freedom is knowing and being able to act according to that which you now know and understand. And I say that because slaves didn't know what they were doing, why they were doing it. They just had to do it because they were told. Yahushua came as the truth to make us friends, revealed to us so that we may know why we do what we do, why we are here, where we're going, etc. And not only did he make us friends, he made us inherit all things through him. So wives, subject yourselves to your own husbands as it is proper in Mashiach, in the sovereign, sir. Husbands, love your wives, right? That is key. I mean, it should be obvious, but certain husbands don't or wouldn't love their wives. They would have their wives just for pleasure or for children, but they wouldn't show true love. And as we know, that is the main thing, because we should love so much, in the sense the husband should love their wives to the point that they are willing to die for them, just like Mashiach came and died for his wife, the congregation. Do not be bitter toward them. We must be careful. We must be sweet, because women respond differently than men do. So we shouldn't talk to them like we talk to men. And even if we understand that they don't respond the same, that think differently about what they hear and how they feel and all of that. Also, we're talking about husbands and wives, so the husband needs to understand that the wife is another part of himself that he needs to try and understand as much as he can, and therefore not be bitter, because that bitterness pretty much comes from not understanding, not even wanting to, not caring, not loving. Children, obey your parents in all. Obey your parents in all, for this is well pleasing to the sovereign. That is obvious, right? All parents understand this easily. All parents will say, yeah, you see, they will tell their children, you see, I'm telling you all the time, right? But when it comes to the previous two, they kind of don't want to hear it, right? They will use this one, obey, you got to obey. So the parents know why for the children to obey is so important, because the parents want the best for the children. So they know that if they obey, they will go on a good path. And that's why it is well pleasing to Yahweh. So, in the same sense, if a parent knows that obeying for the children, obeying is the best, then we should also recognize that to love and not be bitter toward the wives is the best, and also to be subject to the husbands for the wives is the best. The same results that not obeying for the children will bring, right? If a child doesn't obey, he will have bad results in his life. The same with the previous two. And people don't follow this, and then they say, why am I so unhappy? Why does everything goes bad? Why can I not um, have problems in the marriage and all that? Sadly, fathers, do not provoke your children lest they become discouraged. This is something that a lot of fathers do, right? Because fathers tend to be tough, sometimes too tough, not understanding that they're talking to children. They talk to them as men sometimes, and that will make them be discouraged and not want to obey later on. So if we want the children to obey, we should not provoke the children to the point of discouragement. Servants, obey your sovereigns. Remember how we said here previously that there is no free and slave? We are all in Mashiach, and Mashiach in all. Where did the verse go? Here it is. Slave or free, slave or free. We are all in Mashiach. So somebody who doesn't understand the spirit will perhaps read this being a slave and say, okay, now it's all in Mashiach. I'm free then, so I'm living, right? But then he keeps reading, and then he gets to this where it says, slaves, obey your sovereigns, obey your masters, right? So he's like, oh, okay, so I got to keep on. Because as I was saying, we're talking about the spirit, about what will be revealed and manifested. And like I said, there are people who are slaves in the flesh, but free in the mind, while there are others who are free in the flesh, but slaves in their minds. And here, above here, is talking about spiritually, our soul. Whether you are a slave, whether you are free, we are in Mashiach, so we are one and the same. But those who are still slaves, the way they must act is this way: obey your masters according to the flesh, showing that they are only slaves in the flesh. And I say that even though it says servants, because in Hebrew is the same word, obed. So I'm just mentioning it so that it is clear. And there is no contradiction, even though for some it may seem like there is. Slaves or servants, obey your masters according to the flesh in all respects, not with eye service as men pleasers, but in sincerity of heart, fearing Yahweh. So since we serve Yahweh, if for whatever reason Yahweh has decided, has allowed, whatever reason may be, either the perfect will or permissible will, for us to be servants, then we serve him by serving he who he put as our master, if that's the case. So we must serve whatever master it is as if he was Yahweh. Just like somebody who is free must see Yahweh as his master. The only way for him to remain pure, clean. So obey your masters according to the flesh in all respects, not with eye service as men pleasers, right? It's not about what they see, it's not about what they hear, it's about what you know and what you do, right? People who only work when they are being seen, when the boss is not around, they go to sleep, stuff like that. They steal. Whatever person may do because of what the flesh is telling them that they should do, because even the flesh will say that, right? Oh, the boss is mean with you, so you should take this. Oh, the boss didn't pay you that day. Oh, you should take this. This is your payment, right? And that is a way in which the enemy will use even some of the things that those in the world will do against you, but revenge is of Yahweh, right? As it is written, revenge is mine, I will repay. So we shouldn't take our revenge or get that which they took from us by our own means. Obviously, unless Yahweh has given us the authority to do so, but in a clear way. In the sense of, if you are a judge, if you are an authority, and I repeat, you can do it legally. Servants, obey your masters according to the flesh in all respects, not with eye service as men pleasers, but in sincerity of heart. Right? I repeat, there are servants or slaves. Maybe they don't use the word nowadays, but there are a lot of slaves in the world, right? There are a lot of people who are employees who, when the boss is around, they are nice. When the boss is not around, they talk very evil about the boss. So they are just men pleasers, depending on who's around, the way they act. We shouldn't be like that. We should be honest, sincere. For we fear Yahweh, who sees everything, knows everything. And whatever you do it heartily, as to the sovereign and not to men. Once again, confirming that we should act as if anything that we are doing it for Yahweh, for Mashiach, with our hearts, knowing that from the sovereign you shall receive the reward of the inheritance. It is the sovereign Messiah you serve. So it doesn't matter who you serve in this reality, in this world, as an employee, as a slave, servant, whatever it may be. First of all, you should serve somebody. You should serve in the sense that we came here to serve, not to be served. Mashiach himself showed us that. So people, because of pride, flesh, and all of that, think that serving is humiliating. They think that they should be served if they are important as they believe they are because of their foolish heart. But instead, the only way you can actually become important is if you serve. Because if you don't serve, you're pretty much worthless. In the sense of, like I was mentioning in Spanish, the word is perfect because pretty much to say this, what I just said, serving and being worthless, is pretty much with the same word in Spanish. So those who do not serve are expecting to be served. So they are like parasites. They only want to take. They're not giving anything to society. They're not contributing. And that's why those who are at the top, the 1% of the 1%, they are the greatest parasites of all. And that's why Yahweh has to get rid of them, because they are sucking all the riches of the world and leaving everybody poor. which is what they're trying to do nowadays with the Great Reset. So knowing that from the sovereign you shall receive the reward of the inheritance. It is the sovereign Mashiach you serve. It is him. So we shouldn't expect to be paid by the boss. We shouldn't expect to receive everything that, well, people think they deserve a lot. So what they think they deserve, they shouldn't expect it from humans or the world. They should expect it from Yahweh, from his son, Hamashiach, if they truly believe in him. But he who does wrong shall be repaid for the wrong which he has done. And there is no partiality. There is no partiality. So it's simple. If you do good, you will receive your reward. If you don't, then you will receive your punishment. There is no partiality. Yahweh won't see you different. He won't show any partiality during judgment. The only way is by doing good works for Mashiach. So I hope that was clear.